Confused about what's happening in Syria? It all started with 𝗩𝗻 al-Asad, the father of Bashar al-Assad, who came into power without any fair election. In 1982, he carried out one of the worst massacres the country had ever witnessed. The Ba'athist regime laid siege to the city of Hama in the year 1948, brutally massacring over 40,000 people in just a few weeks and abducting a further 17,000 innocents who were never to be seen again. The regime sent a direct message to the Sunni population that no dissent or rebellion would be tolerated. In the year 2000, the son of 𝗩𝗻 al-Asad, Bashar al-Assad, a doctor who studied in England, he continued the legacy of his father, spreading tyranny and oppression in the land unelected. The Assad family ruled over the Syrian people for over half a century with an iron fist. There were long documented reports of mass incarcerations, extrajudicial killings, and massacres against the innocents in Syria. In the year 2011, the Syrians had had enough of the tyranny and the oppression. They started to protest and rebel against the vivid tyranny from the Ba'athist regime. As a result of this, it gave birth to a huge protest movement in the city of Daraa. A young boy, just 13 years of age, decided to contribute to this protest movement, and he wrote on a wall that "Your time will come, O doctor," referring to Bashar al-Assad and his atrocities against the innocents. Bashar al-Assad sent his troops to abduct Hamza Ali al-Khatib, and just in a few weeks, he brutally murdered this young boy, and he sent his corpse to the doorstep of his family. The brutal killing of Hamza Ali al-Khatib galvanized the biggest protest movement known to the Syrians. The Assad regime responded to the protest movement in a very violent manner, trying to crack down on any rebellious behavior from the Syrian population. In the year 2011, in the city Homs, thousands of protesters had gathered to speak against the oppression and tyranny that was becoming rife in Syria. And the Bashar and his troops, they stormed Homs, killing dozens of protesters. Following this event, peaceful protesters throughout Syria also became a target for Bashar's troops. So some of the regime forces, they swayed away from the Bashar regime agenda and joined the protesters, understanding that this was a miscarriage of justice from the Ba'athist regime, and they took up arms to defend themselves. This protest that was supposed to be something peaceful, the Assad regime turned this into an armed crackdown because of the sheer violence and the brutal tortures that they projected onto the Syrian people. Determined for change, the average Syrian protester risked his life for the betterment of his country, with the fundamental goal of ousting the tyrant Bashar al-Assad. For the next 14 years, the Assad regime spent the entire duration cracking down on torturing, fear-mongering, and incarcerating innocent Syrians, with the sole purpose of stopping them from objecting to any regime-based rules, laws, and policies. From chemical attacks to mass incarcerations, all forms of attacks were meted out onto the Syrian population. Over 600,000 innocent Syrians were killed by the bloodthirsty regime throughout the course of this time. And this number doesn't account for those bodies that were found beneath the rubble. Over 6 million Syrians had fled Syria with the hope of finding a place of security and peace, while another 6 million remained internally displaced. Do you remember Alan Kurdi, the 3-year-old boy who was washed up on a beach in Turkey? That's how serious the Syrian suffering was, that people were desperate to flee the war-torn country for a better life for their families and for their children. In December 2024, things started to change drastically in Syria, when rebel forces unified their ranks and they carried out the greatest preemptive armed rebellion against the Syrian regime, causing the tyrant Bashar al-Assad to flee the country. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised, years of suffering, tyranny, and agony came to an end with this liberation. However, as the joys of liberation began to wither away, we came to know of some of the horrors that the Syrians were facing for decades. Among them were the mass incarcerations that were found in 値prison. Hundreds of sisters were imprisoned in 値and they came out of this prison with babies, not knowing who the fathers of the children were. Vast areas in Syria were turned to rubble, and hundreds of Syrians returned home only to find that their homes had been completely destroyed. As the Syrians take steps to rebuilding their country and continuing to live their day-to-day lives in Syria, the question is, what role do we play in this? As they struggle to overcome the trauma and the tortures that they've been subjugated to for decades, it's now that we can stand with them, helping them in their time of difficulty, assisting them through providing them with aid. This Ramadan, do whatever is within your capacity to aid the Syrians and alleviate their difficulties and their burdens. When it comes to the Palestinian suffering, Muslims as well as non-Muslims have showed unconditional support for the Palestinians who are currently being ethnically cleansed. But when it comes to Syria, we see that there's an inconsistency in the moral compass of many Muslims. The same level of support and assistance isn't displayed. And it's crucial that we view Syria as a genocide just as we view Palestine as a genocide. And that as Muslims we unify our ranks and we stand in solidarity, condemning the genocide and the killing in Palestine and in Syria.